You know that moment when your entire world collapses? When the person you trusted most looks you in the eye and destroys everything you've built together? I lived through that moment 3 years ago, standing in my living room at 2 in the morning, holding my crying newborn daughter while my wife, Emily, packed her bags to move in with her ex-boyfriend. My name is Dominic Harrison, and I'm 36 years old. The rage I felt that night could have burned down the house, but I didn't let it consume me. I let it fuel me. Because Emily didn't just betray me. She abandoned our daughter, Clara, and she'd been lying to Jonas for months, telling him we were already divorced, that she was free. The fool had no idea he was helping a married woman abandon her newborn baby. When I found out about her lies, I knew I had 2 people to destroy instead of 1. If you've ever been betrayed by someone you loved, if you've ever wanted to show them exactly what they threw away, then you'll understand why I did what I did. And honestly, I'd do it again. But let me start from the beginning. Before I go any further, let me know in the comments where in the world you are watching from, and make sure to subscribe, because tomorrow I will share a story you don't want to miss. I was 36 years old when my wife destroyed our family. Emily and I had been married for 4 years, together for 7. We'd just brought our daughter Clara home from the hospital 3 weeks earlier. I was running on no sleep, working from home as a software consultant while Emily was supposedly on maternity leave from her job as a marketing coordinator. That Tuesday night, I woke up at 2 a.m. to Clara screaming. Emily wasn't in bed. I found her in the living room, 2 suitcases packed, her phone glowing with text messages. "What's going on?" I asked, holding our wailing daughter. Emily didn't even look up. "I'm leaving, Dominic. I can't do this anymore." "Can't do what? Be a mother?" My voice was sharp, cutting through the exhaustion. "I'm not happy," she said, finally meeting my eyes. "I haven't been happy for a long time. Jonas and I have been talking again, and we're getting back together." Jonas, her ex-boyfriend from college, the guy she'd supposedly cut contact with years ago. "You're leaving our 3-week-old baby for your ex-boyfriend?" The words came out like venom. What kind of mother does that? "Don't you dare judge me," Emily snapped. "You don't understand what I'm going through. Postpartum is hard, and you've been no help." "I've been no help?" I stepped closer, Clara still crying in my arms. "I've changed every diaper tonight. I've done every feeding. I've let you sleep while I work full-time. And this is how you repay me? By abandoning your daughter?" "I'm not abandoning her, I just need space. Jonas understands that." "Does Jonas know you're still married?" I asked, the question sharp and deliberate. "Does he know you have a 3-week-old baby? Or did you lie to him about that too?" Emily's face went pale for just a second before she recovered. "That's none of your business." "Actually, it's exactly my business," I said, my voice dropping to something cold and dangerous. "You're my wife. This is my daughter. And you're running off with some guy who apparently has no idea what he's getting into. That's pathetic, Emily. Even for you." "Jonas knows everything he needs to know," she said, but her voice wavered. "We're getting back together, and that's final." "No." My voice went hard. "You don't get to rewrite this. You're walking out that door to be with another man while your baby screams. That's abandonment. That's who you are. And I promise you, Emily, when Jonas finds out the truth, and he will, he's going to see you for exactly what you are." Emily's hands trembled as she grabbed her suitcases. "You can't stop me." "I'm not trying to stop you," I replied, my tone brutal and calm. "I'm just letting you know that this decision is going to cost you everything. Your daughter, your reputation, your relationship with Jonas when he realizes you've been lying to him. Everything." "Shut up," she hissed. "You don't know anything about Jonas and me." "I know he thinks you're divorced," I said, reading her perfectly. "I know you've been feeding him some sob story about how I was a terrible husband, and you left me months ago. Am I close?" The guilt flashed across her face. "Bingo." "When he finds out the truth," I continued, my voice like ice, "when he realizes he's been helping a married woman abandon her newborn baby, do you really think he's going to want you? You're not some free woman starting fresh, Emily. You're a cheating wife who abandoned her child. That's who Jonas is getting." "You're wrong," she said, but she wouldn't meet my eyes. "Jonas loves me. Jonas loves a lie, I corrected. But don't worry. I'll make sure he learns the truth soon enough. She left. Just walked out the door at 2:30 in the morning, got into Jonas's car that was idling in the driveway, and drove away. I stood there in the living room, holding Clara, watching the taillights disappear down the street. My daughter's cries had finally subsided into whimpers. I looked down at her tiny face, her eyes squeezed shut, completely innocent and helpless. "It's okay, baby girl," I whispered. "Daddy's got you, and I promise you I'm going to make sure they both pay for this." The next morning, I sat in the nursery feeding Clara at 6 a.m., running on maybe 2 hours of sleep total. My phone was in my hand, and I stared at Mom's contact for a full minute before I pressed call. She answered on the second ring. "Dominic, what's wrong?" "Emily's gone," I said, my voice flat. "She left last night. Packed her bags and moved in with her ex-boyfriend. Left me here with Clara." There was a beat of silence, then, "I'll be there in 40 minutes. Mom showed up in 35, still in her sweatpants and an old college hoodie, her gray hair pulled back in a messy ponytail. She took one look at me, unshaven, exhausted, Clara asleep in my arms, and her face went hard. "That selfish little—" She stopped herself, glancing at Clara. "What are you going to do?" "I'm going to bury her," I said simply. "Legally, financially, socially. She abandoned her newborn. That's not something people forgive." Mom's jaw tightened. "Good. I'll help with Clara. You do what you need to do." She reached for my daughter and I handed Clara over carefully. Mom looked down at her granddaughter, her expression softening. "She's got your eyes, you know. She's going to be just fine. We'll make sure of it." "Thanks, Mom." "Don't thank me," she said quietly. "This is family, and Emily just proved she's not part of this family anymore." That same afternoon, I drove across town to meet Rochelle McKinley. Her office was downtown, sleek glass and dark wood, the kind of place that screamed expensive. The receptionist led me back to Rochelle's office, a corner suite overlooking the city. Rochelle stood when I entered. She was maybe early 40s, sharp suit, sharper eyes. "Mr. Harrison, have a seat." I sat across from her, and she pulled out a legal pad. "Tell me what happened." I laid it all out. Emily leaving at 2 a.m., the packed bags, Jonas waiting in the driveway, Clara crying while her mother walked out the door. Rochelle's pen moved across the page in quick, efficient strokes. When I finished, she looked up. "Mr. Harrison," she said, her voice crisp and professional. "Your wife abandoned your newborn to cohabitate with another man. In this state, that's about as clear-cut as it gets for full custody and minimal support obligations on your part." "I want full custody," I said immediately. "And I want her to pay child support despite not having Clara. Can we do that?" "We can certainly try," Rochelle replied with a slight smile. "Given her voluntary abandonment and the fact that she's now living with her boyfriend instead of caring for her child, the court will not look favorably on her. Document everything, every text, every missed call, every time she fails to check on your daughter." I nodded. "There's something else. Jonas, the boyfriend. I don't think he knows Emily is still married. She's been lying to him, telling him we're already divorced." Rochelle's eyebrows rose. Her pen paused. "That's interesting, and potentially very useful." She leaned forward slightly, her interest sharpening. "If we can prove she's been deceiving him about her marital status, it shows a pattern of dishonesty. It also means when the truth comes out, her relationship will likely implode. That gives us additional leverage." "Exactly what I'm hoping for," I said. "Good." Rochelle made another note. "Here's what you're going to do. Keep a log. Every interaction, every communication, everything. If she texts you, screenshot it. If she calls, note the time and what was said. If she doesn't contact you at all, document that too. We're building a narrative here, that she voluntarily abandoned her responsibilities and has shown no interest in her daughter's welfare." "She won't look good in court," I said. "She won't look good anywhere," Rochelle corrected. "Not in court, not to her family, and especially not to Jonas when he finds out the truth. My retainer is $15,000. Are you prepared to move forward?" I didn't hesitate. Absolutely. That first week was brutal. I learned what sleep deprivation actually meant, the kind that makes you forget what day it is, makes simple tasks feel impossible. Every 3 hours, Clara needed to eat. Every few hours after that, she needed changing. And every single moment in between, I was alone. Emily texted me exactly twice that week. The first message came on Thursday. Is Clara okay? Not, how is Clara? Not, can I see her? Just a quick check-in like Clara was a houseplant someone was watering while Emily was on vacation. I screenshot it and replied, she's fine. No thanks to you. The second text came Saturday afternoon. Just checking in, everything good? Again, screenshot. She's your daughter, Emily. You tell me if everything's good. She didn't respond to that. Meanwhile, I watched Jonas's social media like it was my job, because in a way it was. Every photo he posted was evidence. Evidence that Emily was out living her best life while her newborn daughter was home with me. Thursday night, Jonas and Emily at some trendy bar downtown, craft cocktails in hand. Caption, new beginnings with my favorite person. Friday evening, dinner at an upscale Italian place. Emily was smiling at the camera, wearing makeup and a dress I'd bought her last Christmas. Caption from Jonas, finally got my girl back. Worth the wait. Saturday, brunch, more drinks. Emily laughing at something off camera. I saved every single post, every photo, every caption that talked about fresh starts and being finally together again. Because while they were out celebrating their reunion, I was home at 2 a.m. doing Clara's feeding. I was learning how to swaddle properly, how to tell the difference between hungry cries and tired cries, how to function on 90-minute sleep intervals. I was being a parent. Emily was being selfish, and I was documenting every second of it. 2 weeks after Emily left, my phone rang on a Thursday evening while I was feeding Clara her bottle. I almost didn't answer when I saw Emily's name on the screen, but curiosity got the better of me. What? I said, keeping my voice flat. I want to see Clara. Emily's voice was tentative, almost small. Really? I kept my tone neutral, clinical. You want to see the daughter you abandoned? I didn't abandon her. Emily shot back, some heat creeping into her voice. I just needed space. Space. I let the word hang there between us, cold and heavy. You needed space from your 3-week-old baby? Clara finished her bottle and I shifted her to my shoulder, patting her back gently while I waited for Emily to fill the silence. She didn't. Tell me something, Emily. I continued, my voice dropping lower. Does Jonas know you're still legally married to me? That our divorce isn't even filed yet? Silence. Complete, damning silence. That's what I thought, I said. Does he know Clara exists? Does he know you left a newborn to be with him? Jonas knows everything he needs to know, Emily said defensively, but her voice wavered. No, he doesn't, I replied. But he will. Because when I file for divorce and it becomes public record, when the custody battle starts and your name is all over the court system, Jonas is going to find out exactly who he's living with. A liar and a child abandoner. You wouldn't. I absolutely would. I cut her off, my voice turning to ice. You made your choice, Emily. Now live with it. If you want to see Clara, you can do it through the legal system. My attorney will be in touch. Clara burped against my shoulder, a tiny sound that somehow grounded me. And Emily? I added. When Jonas finds out the truth, don't come crying to me. I hung up before she could respond. 3 days later on Sunday afternoon, Rochelle called while I was doing laundry with Clara asleep in her bassinet nearby. It's filed, she said without preamble. Divorce and full custody petition. I made it as brutal as possible. I put down the onesie I was folding. How brutal? We detailed every aspect of her abandonment, Rochelle said, and I could hear the satisfaction in her voice. The fact that she left you and Clara when Clara was 3 weeks old. Her immediate cohabitation with Jonas Adamson, I included his full name and address, by the way. The complete lack of support or care for Clara. I even attached screenshots of Jonas's social media posts showing Emily out at bars and restaurants while you're home with a newborn. Good, I said. But here's the part that's going to really hurt, Rochelle continued. I specifically noted in the filing that Emily had been separated from you for less than 1 month before moving in with Jonas. Made it crystal clear that this wasn't a woman who left a bad marriage and moved on. This was a woman who abandoned her family for her ex-boyfriend while still married. I felt something tighten my chest loosen just slightly. When will Jonas see it? Court filings are public record, Rochelle said. If someone wanted to look up Emily Harrison's legal troubles, they could find them easily enough. But we'll get to that. For now, we wait for her response. Emily's response came through a court-appointed attorney 2 weeks later. Rochelle forwarded me the paperwork with a single line. Read this. You're going to love it. I opened the document while Clara napped in her swing, the gentle rocking motion keeping her peaceful while I read about her mother's delusions. Emily claimed she was suffering from severe postpartum depression, that she wasn't in her right mind when she left, that she needed time to recover. She was asking for joint custody, and she wanted me to pay her spousal support. I actually laughed out loud, a harsh sound that made Clara stir but not wake. I called Rochelle immediately. Tell me this is a joke, I said. It's not a joke, Rochelle replied. It's delusional, but it's not a joke. She's broke, living with Jonas. Can't afford her own attorney, and she thinks a judge is going to give her anything after she walked out on a 3-week-old baby. What happens now? We prepare for the custody hearing, Rochelle said. Judge Albert Sanders is presiding. He's been on the family court bench for 20 years, and he's got 4 kids of his own. He does not have patience for parents who abandon their children. When's the hearing? 6 weeks? Are you ready to testify? I looked at Clara sleeping peacefully in her swing, completely innocent of all the chaos her mother had caused. Absolutely, I said. I want to watch Emily explain to a judge why she abandoned her baby for her ex-boyfriend. And I want Jonas to know the truth. 1 month after Emily walked out, on a Wednesday evening, I sat in my home office going through phone records. Clara was asleep in her bassinet next to my desk. I'd gotten used to working with her nearby, the sound of her breathing keeping me grounded. Rochelle had subpoenaed Emily's phone records to document her communication with Jonas for the custody case. I'd expected to find evidence of their relationship during the pregnancy. What I found made my blood run cold. Emily had been texting Jonas throughout her entire pregnancy, not just friendly conversation, intimate messages, plans to be together soon, discussions about getting rid of the mistake. My hands tightened on the desk as I read through months of lies. In one message from her 7th month of pregnancy, Jonas had texted, "I can't wait until your divorce is final and we can finally be together." Emily's response, "It's almost done. Just a few more months of paperwork. I'm so ready to move on from Dominic." I remembered that month. I'd been working extra hours to save money for Clara's arrival. Emily had been quiet, distant, but I'd chalked it up to pregnancy stress. The whole time she'd been telling Jonas we were getting divorced. We'd never even discussed divorce, never filed a single piece of paperwork. Another message from 2 weeks before she left. "When can I move in with you?" Jonas, "Whenever you want, babe. I thought you were waiting for the divorce to be finalized." Emily, "It's basically done. Just waiting on the judge to sign off. I can leave any time now." All lies. Complete fabrications. Emily had created an entire story to make Jonas think he was helping her escape a failed marriage, instead of what he was actually doing, helping her abandon her newborn baby and cheat on her husband. The worst message came from her 8th month of pregnancy. I had to read it twice because I couldn't believe what I was seeing. "Just need to get through the birth, and then I'm free," Emily had written. "Can't wait to start our life together, Jonas. No more Dominic, no more mistakes, just us. No more mistakes. Clara wasn't a mistake. She was my daughter. She was everything good in my life." And Jonas had no idea. He thought he was rescuing Emily from a bad situation. He had no clue he was being manipulated, lied to, used as Emily's escape plan from the responsibilities she didn't want. I grabbed my phone and called Rochelle, my hands shaking. "We need to add this to the case," I said the second she answered, not bothering with pleasantries. "Emily planned to abandon Clara before she was even born. She's been lying to Jonas the entire time, telling him we were already divorced, that the marriage was over, that she was free to be with him." "Send me everything," Rochelle said immediately. "This changes everything, Dominic." With this evidence, we can argue for sole custody with supervised visitation at best. We can push for maximum child support despite her not having custody. This isn't postpartum depression. This is premeditated abandonment and fraud. There's something else, I said, my voice tight. Jonas still doesn't know the truth. He thinks Emily left a failed marriage. He has no idea she abandoned a 3-week-old baby, or that she's still legally married to me. Court filings are public record, Rochelle said carefully. If someone, say a concerned party, wanted to inform Mr. Adamson that the woman he's living with is actually still married and abandoned her newborn, they could simply direct him to the public court documents. Entirely legal. Do it, I said immediately. Jonas deserves to know who he's actually with. There's one more thing, Rochelle continued. Emily works for Whitmore Marketing, correct? Her boss is George Whitmore. I know George professionally. If he knew that one of his employees had abandoned her newborn and was embroiled in a very public legal battle involving fraud and deception, he might be concerned about his company's reputation. My jaw tightened. Make it happen. She ruined Clara's life. She deserves everything that's coming to her. 2 months after Emily left on a Tuesday morning in late summer, I walked into the courthouse with Rochelle beside me. My mother was in the hallway with Clara, keeping her away from the chaos inside. Emily sat across the aisle with her court-appointed attorney, a tired-looking man in an ill-fitting suit. She looked nervous, kept glancing at the door like she expected someone to rescue her. Jonas wasn't in the courtroom, but I knew he was out there somewhere waiting, still believing every lie Emily had fed him. Judge Albert Sanders presided, 60 years old, father of 4, known throughout the legal community for having zero tolerance for parents who abandoned their kids. I'd done my research. This was the judge I wanted. Rochelle stood, her posture sharp and professional. Your Honor, this case is straightforward, she began. Ms. Harrison voluntarily abandoned her 3-week-old daughter to cohabitate with another man. She planned this abandonment during her pregnancy and executed it without regard for her child's welfare. She laid it out methodically, the timeline of Emily's departure, the text messages planning the whole thing, screenshots of Jonas's social media, Emily at bars, at restaurants, living her best life while Clara was home with me. Then Rochelle called my mother to the stand. Mom didn't hold back. She testified about the countless nights she'd driven 40 minutes to help me with Clara, about finding me exhausted, running on no sleep, doing everything alone while Emily partied with her boyfriend. Did Ms. Harrison ever call to check on the baby? Rochelle asked. Twice, Mom said, her voice hard. Twice in 2 months, and both times she only asked if Clara was okay, never offered to help, never asked to see her own daughter. Emily's attorney tried to object, but Judge Sanders waved him off. Then Rochelle dropped the real bomb. Your Honor, we have evidence that Ms. Harrison not only planned to abandon Clara before she was even born, but that she also engaged in a months-long campaign of deception toward Mr. Jonas Adamson. She submitted the text messages into evidence. Ms. Harrison told Mr. Adamson repeatedly that she and Mr. Harrison were already divorced, that the marriage was over, that she was free to be with him. All lies. She fabricated an entire divorce to manipulate Mr. Adamson into helping her abandon her newborn daughter. Emily's face went white as Judge Sanders read through the messages. The courtroom was silent except for the sound of pages turning. Ms. Harrison, Judge Sanders said finally, his tone already skeptical. Approach the stand. Emily walked up on shaking legs. Explain to me why you left your newborn daughter, the judge said. I was suffering from severe postpartum depression, Emily said, her voice small. I wasn't in my right mind. I needed help. Did you seek professional help? Judge Sanders interrupted. Emily hesitated. Not immediately, but Jonas was there for me, and he helped me through. Mr. Adamson, the judge said, looking at the documents in front of him. The man you told you were already divorced from your husband? Emily's mouth opened and closed. It's complicated. It's not complicated, Ms. Harrison, Judge Sanders said, his voice cutting through her excuses. You lied to Mr. Adamson about your marital status. You told him you were divorced when you were still married and living with your husband. You then abandoned your 3-week-old baby to move in with him under false pretenses. Does Mr. Adamson even know about your daughter? Tears started streaming down Emily's face. He knows now. But he didn't when you moved in with him, did he? Rochelle interjected. In fact, according to these messages, you told him Clara was your husband's problem and that you'd already given up custody. Another lie. Judge Sanders read through more of the messages. His expression darkened with each page. Ms. Harrison, he said finally, I've been a family court judge for 20 years. I've seen a lot of difficult situations. But I have never seen a mother plan to abandon her newborn with such cold calculation, while simultaneously deceiving her boyfriend about virtually every aspect of her life. He set the papers down. This isn't postpartum depression. This is systematic deception and abandonment. Emily tried to speak, but the judge held up his hand. Full physical and legal custody goes to Mr. Harrison, Ms. Harrison will have supervised visitation twice a month, pending completion of a psychological evaluation and parenting classes. Furthermore, she will pay child support in the amount of $800 per month, effective immediately. Emily's attorney stood. Your Honor, your client abandoned a 3-week-old infant and lied to everyone involved. Judge Sanders said coldly. She's lucky I'm allowing any visitation at all. This hearing is concluded. I walked out of that courtroom feeling like I could finally breathe. Jonas was in the hallway, sitting on a bench near the elevators. He was holding a copy of the court documents, the ones Rochelle had helpfully left with the clerk for interested parties. His face was pale, hands shaking as he read. I walked past him without saying a word. The truth had done its job. That evening, my phone rang while I was feeding Clara her bottle. Emily's name lit up the screen. I almost didn't answer, but I wanted to hear this. Jonas is leaving me, Emily screamed the second I picked up. No hello, no preamble, just hysteria. He said I lied to him about everything. This is your fault. My fault. I kept my voice calm, almost bored. Clara was looking up at me with those big dark eyes, completely oblivious to her mother's meltdown. I didn't lie to Jonas for months, Emily. That was all you. You gave him those court documents, she shrieked. You wanted to destroy my relationship. The court documents are public record, I said. Jonas had every right to know the truth. Maybe if you'd been honest with him from the beginning, he wouldn't be so angry. But you lied to him, Emily. Just like you lied to me. And now you get to deal with the consequences. Emily sobbed on the other end of the line. Actual ugly crying. He called me a liar and a terrible mother. She choked out. He said he never would have gotten back together with me if he'd known I was still married and had just abandoned my baby. He said I'm not the person he thought I was. He's right, I replied. You're not. You're exactly the person I told him you were, a liar who abandoned her child. I have nowhere to go, Emily cried. Jonas wants me out by the end of the week. I can't afford an apartment on my own. That sounds like a you problem, I said. Clara had finished her bottle and was starting to doze off in my arms. Maybe you should have thought about that before you burned your entire life to the ground. I hung up while she was still crying. 2 days later, Thursday afternoon, Rochelle called me. George Whitmore just fired Emily, she said, and I could hear the satisfaction in her voice. Already? He saw the court documents. Someone, very concerned about the company's reputation, forwarded them to him. They outlined everything. The abandonment, the lies to Jonas, the months-long affair while she was still married. I smiled, adjusting Clara in my arms. She was napping now. Her little fist curled against my chest. Whitmore Marketing prides itself on being family-friendly, Rochelle continued. Having an employee who abandoned her newborn daughter and engaged in documented fraud and deception. Not exactly compatible with the company's image. Did she try to fight it? Of course. Threatened to sue for wrongful termination. But George was smart. He'd been documenting performance issues for months. Late arrivals, missed meetings, poor work quality. All coincidentally aligning with when she was texting Jonas and planning her escape. So it's not technically because she abandoned Clara. No, Rochelle said. It's because her personal issues significantly affected her professional performance and judgment. Emily can't prove otherwise. My phone buzzed with another call. Emily. She's calling me now, I told Rochelle. Enjoy, Rochelle said and hung up. I answered Emily's call. You got me fired, Emily screamed. You destroyed my relationship. You've ruined my entire life. No, Emily, I said, my voice cold and hard. You ruined your own life. You abandoned our daughter. You lied to Jonas. You made choices, and now you're facing consequences. This is what accountability looks like. I can't pay rent, she sobbed. I can't afford food. Jonas kicked me out and I have nowhere to go. Again, I said, that's a you problem. Clara stirred slightly in my sleep, making a small sound. I adjusted her gently, keeping my voice low but making sure Emily heard every word. Oh, and Emily? Your first child support payment is due in 10 days. Don't be late. I hung up. Then I blocked her number. I sat there in my living room, holding my daughter, feeling the first real wave of satisfaction wash over me. Emily had lost everything. Her relationship with Jonas, destroyed by her own lies, her job, gone because her personal chaos finally caught up with her professionally, her home, evicted because Jonas finally saw who she really was, and she had no one to blame but herself. Clara made another small sound, her hand flexing against my shirt. It's okay, baby girl, I whispered. Daddy's got you. And the woman who abandoned you is finally getting exactly what she deserves. 6 months after the divorce was finalized, life stabilized. I mean really stabilized. Not the fake kind where you're barely holding it together and pretending everything's fine. The real kind where you wake up and realize the chaos has actually passed. Mom came over every weekday to help with Clara while I worked from home. My consulting business was doing well enough that I could afford to hire Diane Roberts, a professional nanny in her 40s, to cover the evenings when I had client calls or needed to focus on complex projects. Clara was thriving. That's the word the pediatrician used during her 6-month checkup, and it stuck with me. Thriving. She was hitting all her milestones right on schedule, sitting up, starting to babble, sleeping through the night. She'd smile and laugh at the smallest things. A silly face from Mom, a peekaboo game with Diane, the sound of my voice when I came into her room in the morning. She was happy, really, genuinely happy. Emily showed up for exactly 2 supervised visits. 2. The first one, she barely looked at Clara. Spent most of the hour checking her phone, asking the supervisor when the time would be up. The second visit, she held Clara for maybe 10 minutes before handing her back to the supervisor and claiming she felt overwhelmed. After that, nothing. Emily sent an email to Rochelle saying the visits were too painful and that seeing Clara for only 2 hours at a time made her feel worse. She'd moved back with her parents in another state. Couldn't afford to stay in the city anymore after losing her job and her relationship. I didn't buy the too painful excuse for a second. Emily never actually wanted to be a mother. Clara was just an inconvenient obligation, a reminder of all the choices Emily had made and all the consequences she couldn't escape. So Emily stopped showing up, and honestly, Clara didn't notice. How could she? She was 6 months old, and the woman who'd birthed her was essentially a stranger. 6 months after the divorce, I met Leslie. It happened during one of Clara's routine checkups at the pediatric clinic. Leslie Parker was the nurse who took Clara's measurements, 32 years old, warm smile, the kind of calm competence that made you trust her immediately. She asked about Clara's eating habits, her sleep schedule, whether I had any concerns. Normal nurse stuff. But then she made Clara laugh by making funny faces while trying to get her temperature, and I found myself smiling too. We struck up a conversation. Small talk at first, how old Clara was, how I was managing as a single dad, whether I'd found any good parenting resources. But there was something easy about talking to Leslie. Something genuine. Before I left, she mentioned there was a parent support group that met at the clinic once a month. Said it might be helpful to connect with other single parents. I didn't go to the support group, but I did ask Leslie out for coffee the next time we were at the clinic. We started dating slowly. Really slowly. I made it clear from the beginning that Clara was my priority, that we came as a package deal, that I wasn't looking for someone who just tolerated my daughter. I needed someone who actually wanted to be part of our lives. Leslie didn't just accept that. She embraced it. One evening, about 3 months into dating, Leslie was over at my place. We were sitting on the floor watching Clara play with her blocks, stacking them up and knocking them down over and over, giggling every time they fell. "She's lucky to have you," Leslie said quietly. I glanced over at her. "Yeah? Not every father would have fought the way you did," she continued. "A lot of men would have just let the mother take custody and walked away. But you didn't. You made sure Clara had what she needed." "Emily didn't leave me a choice," I replied. "The moment she walked out that door and lied to Jonas about everything, she sealed both their fates." Leslie was quiet for a moment. Then she asked, "Whatever happened to Jonas?" "Last I heard, he's still bartending," I said. "Apparently the whole situation messed him up pretty badly. Finding out the woman he thought he was rescuing from a bad marriage had actually used him to abandon her newborn. That's not something you get over easily." "He was a victim too, in a way," Leslie observed. I considered that. "Maybe. But he still helped a married woman leave her family. Even if he didn't know the full truth, he should have asked more questions." By Clara's first birthday, Leslie and I were engaged. Mom adored her. Clara lit up whenever Leslie walked in the room. And me? I felt genuinely happy for the first time in over a year. We threw a small party for Clara's birthday at Mom's house, just family and close friends in her backyard. Balloons, a smash cake that Clara destroyed with pure joy, present she was too young to open herself. Emily wasn't invited, though she did send a text from her mother's phone asking if she could stop by. I replied with one word: no. Life was good. My business was thriving. Clara was happy and healthy, and I was building a future with someone who actually wanted to be there. Then, 2 weeks after Clara's birthday party, Rochelle called. "We have a problem," she said. My stomach dropped. "What kind of problem?" "Emily filed a motion to modify custody. She's claiming she's gotten help, completed anger management and parenting classes, and she wants joint custody." "That's ridiculous," I said, my voice sharp. "She hasn't seen Clara in 4 months. She barely pays her child support on time. She lives with her parents in another state. What judge is going to give her joint custody?" "Probably none," Rochelle said carefully. "But we still have to respond. And there will be another hearing." "Of course there will be," I muttered. "There's something else," Rochelle continued. "Emily has a new attorney, someone better than the court-appointed one. Apparently her parents are funding it." The news hit me like a punch to the gut. After everything, after Jonas left her, after she got fired, after she moved away, Emily was still trying to insert herself back into Clara's life. Not because she wanted to be a mother, because she couldn't stand the fact that I'd won. "When's the hearing?" I asked. 6 weeks from now." 6 weeks later, I walked into that courthouse on a Wednesday morning feeling like I was watching my life get hijacked all over again. Emily had cleaned herself up. Professional clothes, hair styled perfectly, looking exactly like the put-together marketing coordinator she used to be before she burned her entire life down. She sat next to her new attorney, Gerald Hansen, looking calm and composed. I wanted to throw up. Rochelle sat beside me, her briefcase full of evidence, her expression sharp and ready for battle. But I could feel the difference in the air this time. Emily had prepared. She had resources now. Her parents were funding this fight. Judge Sanders took the bench, the same judge who'd torn Emily apart at the first hearing. I tried to take comfort in that, but my stomach was twisted in knots. Gerald stood up first, his voice smooth and confident. "Your Honor, Ms. Harrison is here today not asking for primary custody, but simply for the opportunity to be part of her daughter's life again. She's struggled with mental health issues, severe postpartum depression that went untreated for far too long. But she's done the work. 8 months of therapy, twice a week. Parenting classes completed. Anger management courses finished. She's demonstrated genuine remorse for her actions, and she's ready to be the mother Clara deserves." He laid out certificates on the table like they were winning lottery tickets, letters from her therapist, course completion documents, a carefully crafted statement Emily had written about being lost after Clara's birth but now being found. It was all theater, all performance, but it looked good on paper. Rochelle stood up, her voice cutting through the room like a blade. "Your Honor, Ms. Harrison voluntarily skipped her court-ordered visitations. She showed no sustained interest in Clara's welfare for months, She now lives in another state, making regular custody completely impractical. And let's not forget, Rochelle's voice sharpened, Ms. Harrison's pattern of deception. She lied to Mr. Adamson about her marital status, hid her daughter's existence, fabricated an entire divorce. This isn't about mental health. This is about a woman who lies when it's convenient and abandons responsibilities when they become difficult. Therapy can't fix fundamental character. I watched Emily's face. She didn't flinch. She'd been coached well. Judge Sanders listened to both sides, reading through the documents Gerald had submitted, then looking at Rochelle's counter-evidence. Finally, he spoke. Mr. Harrison, you've done an exemplary job raising your daughter. The court recognizes that. My chest tightened. However, Judge Sanders continued, the court also believes in giving parents opportunities to rehabilitate themselves. Ms. Harrison's past actions were reprehensible, but people can change. No. Therefore, I'm granting Ms. Harrison graduated visitation. Supervised visits twice a month for 3 months. If those go well, we'll move to unsupervised visits. After 6 months, we'll revisit the possibility of expanded custody. My stomach dropped straight through the floor. Emily smiled. Tears streamed down her face. Happy tears this time. She hugged Gerald like she'd just won the lottery. I walked out of that courtroom feeling sick. Rochelle caught up with me in the parking lot. This isn't over, she said firmly. Graduated visitation doesn't mean joint custody. Emily has to actually follow through. And most parents who fight this hard, they give up after a few visits when they realize how much work parenting actually is. What if she doesn't give up? I asked. Then we document everything. Every late pickup, every missed visit, every time Clara comes home upset. We build a case that she isn't capable of being a consistent parent, and we go back to court. That night, I sat with Leslie in my living room after Clara was asleep. I can't believe the judge gave her another chance, I said, my head in my hands. Hey. Leslie put her hand on my shoulder. Clara is your daughter. You've raised her for a year. Emily has no relationship with her. A few supervised visits aren't going to change that. But what if she tries to take her from me? She won't, Leslie said firmly. Because you're not going to let that happen, and neither am I. We're in this together, Dominic. All 3 of us. Emily's first supervised visit was at a family center 2 weeks later. She had to drive 3 hours from her parents' house to get there. I dropped Clara off and waited in the parking lot, my stomach in knots the entire hour. When I picked her up, the supervisor, a woman named Margaret Delaney, pulled me aside. Mr. Harrison, she said quietly, your daughter didn't recognize Ms. Harrison. She cried for most of the visit, kept asking for you. Ms. Harrison seemed frustrated. Frustrated, I repeated. She expected Clara to be excited to see her, but Clara doesn't know her. It's going to take time. Margaret hesitated. Also, Ms. Harrison mentioned several times how expensive the drive was and how difficult this schedule is for her. Already making excuses. Emily texted me that night. Clara hates me. She wouldn't even let me hold her. This is impossible. I didn't respond. The second visit went slightly better, but Emily was still impatient. She wanted Clara to immediately call her Mama, to be affectionate. But Clara was wary, clingy to me when I dropped her off and picked her up. Emily texted after, I can't keep driving 6 hours round trip for 1 hour with a kid who doesn't even know me. This isn't fair. By the 4th visit, cracks were starting to show. Emily arrived 15 minutes late, flustered and complaining about traffic. Margaret noted it in her report. By the 6th visit, Emily arrived 45 minutes late. Clara had been crying, waiting for her, confused about why she was at the center. Emily claimed her car had broken down, but Margaret noted she smelled like cigarette smoke and seemed distracted and unprepared. Emily texted me afterward, This isn't working. I can't afford the gas money, the drive is killing me, and Clara doesn't want to see me anyway. Maybe we should just stick with the current arrangement. I showed the text to Rochelle. She smiled. Actually smiled. She's giving up, Rochelle said with satisfaction. Just like I thought she would. Parenting is hard, and Emily doesn't actually want to do the work. She just wanted to prove she could get custody if she wanted it. 3 months after the second hearing, Emily filed paperwork to voluntarily terminate her visitation rights. Rochelle called me on a Tuesday afternoon to tell me. She's claiming it's financially and emotionally unsustainable to maintain the visits, Rochelle said. Says she thinks it's better for Clara to have stability with her father. So she's giving up, I said. Completely, Rochelle confirmed. And I'm going to file a motion immediately to terminate her parental rights entirely. We'll eliminate her child support obligations in exchange for her giving up all legal rights to Clara forever. Wait, I said. You're letting her off the hook for child support? Trust me, Rochelle said. This is better. Emily will have zero legal claim to Clara ever again. She can't come back in 5 years asking for custody. She can't object when Leslie adopts Clara. This ends it permanently. And Emily gets to live with the fact that she gave up her daughter twice. I smiled. Do it. The final hearing was scheduled for 1 month later. That Thursday morning, I walked into the courtroom with Rochelle beside me and Leslie waiting in the hallway. Emily showed up alone, looking exhausted and defeated. Her parents hadn't even come with her. She looked like she'd aged 5 years. Judge Sanders reviewed the paperwork, looking between Emily and me with evident disgust. Ms. Harrison, he said finally, you're requesting to terminate your parental rights to your daughter? Again? Yes, Your Honor, Emily said quietly. I think it's best for Clara. Dominic is a great father and I'm not ready to be a mother. I don't think I ever was. You weren't ready when you were pregnant either, Judge Sanders said coldly. But you had her anyway. You lied to Mr. Adamson about being divorced, abandoned your newborn, destroyed multiple lives in the process, and now, a year and a half later, you're finally admitting what we all knew from the beginning. You never wanted to be a parent. Emily didn't respond. She just stared at her hands. Mr. Harrison, Judge Sanders turned to me. Do you agree to these terms? I do, Your Honor, I said. I want what's best for my daughter, and what's best is for Emily to have no legal claim to Clara's life. She's proven she can't be trusted. Not with Clara, not with Jonas, not with anyone. Very well, the judge said. Ms. Harrison's parental rights are hereby terminated. She has no legal relationship to the child, no custody rights, and no support obligations. Mr. Harrison has sole legal and physical custody. This case is permanently closed. Emily signed the papers, her hand shaking. She looked at me once as she stood to leave. I hope you're happy, she said, her voice bitter. I am, I replied simply, because Clara has a real family now. Something you could never give her. Emily walked out of that courtroom alone. I walked out knowing I'd never have to see her again. 3 months later, Leslie and I got married in a small ceremony in Mom's backyard. Clara was our flower girl. She walked down the aisle holding Mom's hand, wearing a tiny white dress and giggling at everyone watching her. During the reception, I stood up to make a toast. A year and a half ago, I said, looking at the faces of everyone I loved, my life fell apart. I found myself alone with a newborn, wondering how I was going to survive. But I didn't just survive. I thrived. Because I refused to let someone else's betrayal define my life. I looked at Leslie, who was holding Clara in her lap. I found people who actually wanted to be part of our family, I continued, who chose us every single day. And that's worth more than anything Emily ever could have given us. Everyone raised their glasses. 6 months after the wedding, Leslie officially adopted Clara. We went to court one final time, but this time it was a celebration. Judge Sanders, who'd handled all of our cases, actually smiled when he signed the adoption decree. Mr. and Mrs. Harrison, he said, congratulations on your family. Clara is a very lucky girl. We're the lucky ones, Leslie said, tears in her eyes. It's been 3 years since Emily walked out that door. Clara is 4 years old now, happy and thriving. She calls Leslie Mommy and has no memory of Emily. We have a son now, too, Thomas, who just turned 1. Mom is still heavily involved in our lives, coming over for dinner twice a week and babysitting whenever we need her. My consulting business is more successful than ever. Leslie loves her job at the pediatric clinic. We bought a bigger house in a great school district. Life is exactly what I always wanted it to be. Emily, she's not doing well. I found out through mutual acquaintances that she's still living with her parents. She never moved out after losing her job and her relationship with Jonas. She's working part-time as a server at a chain restaurant because her marketing career never recovered after being fired from Whitmore Marketing. Word got around in the industry about why she was let go, and no reputable company wanted to hire her. She's alone. No partner, no children, no career to speak of. Just the consequences of her choices following her everywhere she goes. Jonas didn't fare much better from what I heard. The revelation that Emily had been lying to him about everything, that she was still married, that she'd just abandoned her newborn, that he'd been helping her commit what was essentially parental abandonment, destroyed him. He apparently went through a rough patch, questioning his own judgment and struggling with guilt over his role in the situation. He moved to another state about a year ago. Started over somewhere where no one knew about what had happened. I don't blame him entirely. Emily lied to him just like she lied to everyone else. But he still chose to help a woman leave her family without asking enough questions. That's something he'll have to live with. Emily's parents apparently blame me for ruining their daughter's life. They think I was too harsh, that I should have been more forgiving, that everyone makes mistakes. But I don't see it that way. Emily had a family who loved her, a beautiful daughter, and a husband who would have done anything for her. She threw it all away for a man she'd lied to, and a fantasy that could never live up to reality. She abandoned her newborn baby, destroyed Jonas's life by using him as her escape plan, and showed no remorse until she faced real consequences. Sometimes I wonder if she regrets it. If she sees photos of Clara on Mom's Facebook page because Mom refuses to block Emily's parents, and realizes what she lost. If she thinks about Jonas and how she destroyed his trust in women. If she understands that she didn't just ruin her own life, but damaged everyone around her. But honestly, I don't care anymore. Emily made her choices and I made mine. I chose to fight for my daughter, to expose Emily's lies to everyone they affected, to build a real family with people who wanted to be there, and to never let someone else's betrayal define my future. I destroyed Emily's life because she tried to destroy mine first. And I have no regrets. Because in the end, I didn't just survive Emily's abandonment and deception. I won. I believe stories such as this find us for a reason. If this one touches you, please subscribe. I share a new one every day. In the meantime, there are 2 stories on the screen that are even better.